Well, hello, and welcome back to Idle Kingdom Defense. So today, 24,030, and of course, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe, and you know it, I know it, make sure you ring that bell. So, where did we leave off? Oh, we're slaying the dragon today. So we do have more than dragon slaying to do today, so don't worry, we will get to that soon. Very curious what else we will get into today. That's for sure. But until we get there, we're gonna have to slay this dragon, and of course we're looking for gold, which we got there. We need as much gold as possible to level up the castle. We're still trying to get to 23 million health, and then we will level up Vincent to 20k, and then once Vincent is at 20k, we will then get the castle to 25 million health. Once the castle is at 25 million health, at that point we will just proceed to continue to level heroes. We are going to level Vincent. We are going to level Daniel. And then I'm not sure who will be next, but it will be another warrior. The reason being is that warriors can actually share the gear. The artifact's much easier than the supports. I mean, obviously I can throw them to Christian, and we will do that at some point. But that's where we're at for now. And of course, Portal has been swept, and King's Ruin has been ruined. And that leads us with Total War. So if you remember where we were leaving off, maybe you don't, this would be a great time to refresh your memory, is that we have started working on the flame and the poison. And I did even more math today, and I may have to reverse the change in direction I was about to do. But before I do that, I need to explain it. So I'll explain it while we start this battle. Well, once the battle is started, is probably a better way to put it. And yes, I did do some math. So here's the problem. And okay, we have started at 10-2. So if I go to 7,500, it definitely is advantageous to switch to Vincent at 3,500 at the most. That is advantageous because of just how everything works. However, I don't know if I'm going to do that, and let me explain why. So last night I was thinking, okay, that's 15,000 artifact levels, because it's 4,000 for Vincent, which is 8,000, and 35 for Marion, which is effectively 7,000. The reason I was going to do that is because basically the defense on Marion's artifacts would just go to Sophia. And Sophia, having that much defense, would simply be able to let the monsters tank the castle forever. Seems reasonable enough, right? Well, I started thinking, I said, okay, wait a second. So first, what I did was I adjusted the parameters, and let me explain how I adjusted the parameters. So I took the damage that we know Vincent is doing, based off of the person who cleared it, which is just Vincent's baseline damage plus Daniel's buff, which I believe is around 19,000. And then I multiplied that, and I don't think it was 19, I think it was 17,000. Maybe. No, I think it was 17. Then I multiplied that by the difference between support and warriors, which I put at, warriors get 10.2, or really it's 1,020%, which is a multiplication factor of 11.2. And support gets 8.8. So I did 11.2 divided by 8.8, which is about 27.3%. So warriors just being a warrior gets you a flat 27.2 bonus. And that doesn't even account for the fact that, like your buff is always up, you're not dependent on another hero, etc. Warriors just straight up win because of the castle. So I took that into consideration. And then the other thing, the reason the warriors win, is because unlike Marion, who has a delay when her ability is used, so Marion, even with auto battle, there's about a 1 second delay before the ability is activated. So Marion's ability has an 8-second cooldown that is roughly 9 seconds, because it takes the 1 second for the game to activate it. It doesn't activate instantly. And whereas Vincent is 7 seconds, and Vincent does activate instantly. Because warriors will never hold their specials expecting you to do any input with them. So when you take that into consideration, that's about another 20%. And so when you look at it, taking Marion to 7,500 or taking Vincent to 4,000, Marion from 3,500 to 7,500 was about 20x damage. Vincent, because it was about 10x. But when you consider those two multipliers, it puts him at about 15x. So it was really questionable to do that, because then again, remember, if I did if I did Marion to 7,500, I would then have to make some defense for Sophia to cover so things could tank the castle. And the reason I chose 20, and 20 is probably high, is that I took 12 hours times 20, which make it close to, it would make it close to roughly, I think a half-hour fight is what I computed, which is hard to say if it is or isn't, right? That's very difficult to accurately determine, because of course Marion is going to hit more things than Vincent in an ideal world, and so there's a lot of I don't really know how to model how much how many more things Marion's area effect is going to hit over Vincent. And that's hard to model too, because Marion gets stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Vincent could. And you're basically just waiting for them to move. And if you watch most of the videos, Marion mostly kills everything and then gets to the boss. It's very rarely that she gets to the boss early and hits the boss while other things are going on. Sometimes she does clip the boss, but I do notice that most times she has killed, and it could be just because she does so much damage, but it does seem overwhelmingly that she manages to kill everything else before the boss dies. That has been the overwhelming majority. And that's not surprising. Oh, there's Viking. Because, of course, the boss is one target, and the enemies are many targets. So, for her to actually cycle to the boss would be kind of a miracle. The way Vincent gets around that is, of course, you would try to set up Vincent so that he picks up the boss, and if he picks up the boss and the boss is on him, every time Vincent specials, the boss is going to get a special, and yeah, that can dramatically reduce your total war time, because now Vincent is always hitting the boss, even if he's fighting all these other things. He's just running around with the boss on him, and there's that. So anyways, when I took all of this, and again, I don't know, I mean, and I could be underestimating this, because that number could be 12 hours of Vincent hitting the boss continuously, and if so, I would need, I can do some simple math. So that would be 24 hours of actual time, because you're running at 2x speed, times 60 minutes, times 60 seconds, divided by 7 seconds for activation. That is 12,342 activations of Vincent's special. So we'll just round up to 12,400. Now, using my spreadsheet, and maybe I'll post this spreadsheet. I have to see if I have it available. Oh. We will add that. Wait, do I need that? Yes, I do for this. Times 11.2, and that's all I need. That's the actual damage per hit. So I'm considering Daniel's buff and the actual and then I'm multiplying that entire amount by 11.2. So it's 19 times 105, 105 million, no, 105,365,019 times 15.85, that was just his artifacts at the time, times the crit damage, which is 470,698, divided by 1,000, plus 1.5, because the default crit rate is apparently 1.5, plus 12, and the plus 12 is for Daniel, because Daniel's buff is effectively plus 1,200 crit damage. And then you take all of that, and you multiply it by 11.2, which is the buff of the castle. And that gets you a really large number. But it's not that large. Well, it is pretty large. I think it's 170 trillion. We'll see in a second here. Yeah, I actually thought my numbers were wrong. But I didn't realize how right they were. Which sounds ridiculous. So you're like, how would you not know that? And it's, well... So that gives us million, billion... That gives us 172 trillion a hit. So now we can take 1,400 times this ludicrous number. And we can easily see if he was hitting... Vincent was hitting him the entire time. And that is a number so big that Excel refuses to... Okay, there we go. I forced Excel to show the number correctly. And that is... Okay, million, billion, trillion... That is roughly double the health. So he has about 1 quintillion health. The last boss has about 1 quintillion health. And in this case, we're looking at million, billion, trillion, quadrillion. We're looking at 2 quintillion. So that means that Vincent hit the boss roughly 50% of the time of the fight. So that's as close as we're going to get. Now, that doesn't account for the 1% crits and all that. There's some little hand waving I'm doing there. I mean, the reality is I could do something different with the formula. Oh, you know what I really could do is just take the number that I got and then times 0.99. Because a 1% hit isn't going to matter anyways. And that doesn't really change anything. That's 2.1. 2.1 quadrillion. Or, sorry, 2.1 quintillion still versus without the 0.99, 2.3. So it changes it by about 20 quadrillion. That's about what you would expect from that. So yeah, the 1% crit is kind of not very relevant. So that does mean that Vincent hit for half the time on the boss. Considering the monsters and everything like that, I think that's reasonable to assume. I don't know what the monsters are on that stage, but they would vary from anywhere from the horsemen who would have half as much health as the boss, to the other monsters like the slimes and stuff like that that have 1/10 of the health of the boss. So that's, I guess, fairly reasonable. So, anyways, I plugged all that in, and then I upped the number to be what I would assume is an equivalent for Manny. And so the baseline is what ended up being 25 trillion, almost 26 trillion a hit. And so I took that 26 trillion a hit as what Marion's baseline needed to be. And that baseline, I think, was 3,500? No. 3,000? A little less. 29? Yeah, it was basically 2,900 on the artifact. So his Vincent, granted, he stacked the Awakenings. His Vincent is equivalent to my 2,900 Marion, for whatever that's worth. Anyways, oh, there's Christian. So anyways, I did all that math, and again, I figure if from 29,000 to 5,000, I have a 4.6 increase. So again, using all these numbers, that would put me at a less than 3 hour total war, and I should be able to clear it at 5,000. So I said, okay, if we take 5,000, we make Sophia a book. Sophia's book would be defense, and it has to be defense and defense percent. If we do that, and we take the what's this? I'm not sure why I have a different. Oh. Okay, so 2,900 is slightly more. That's what it is. 2,900. $2,900 is 25. It's 25 trillion is the comparison. My baseline is 2,900, which is 2,900 is like 2% more than the baseline that I had. Anyways, so the idea being that we compare those two values and determine that. So like I said, if I take it from 2,900 to 5,000, I get about 4.5 times, 4.6 times. I should be able to clear it in 3 hours. I probably would not be a fan of doing it in anything less than 3 hours. I mean, anything more than 3 hours, because I think that's too long. It kind of becomes a question, right? Do I just run the game for, 26 hours or something like that to complete it? Or do I complete it in a reasonable time? And to be honest, even that isn't reasonable, because if you're on iOS or anything like that, most of the hardware would crash before you could do it. It's not really fair, so to speak. But yeah, that should get me a 3 hour clear, give or take. But that means that's a total of going. We can look at Marion now. Roughly, Anyways, if you're wondering why I'm hemming and hawing a bit, it's because, it's a difficult decision. And once I make the decision, I'm kind of stuck with it. If we go with Vincent, we're stuck with it until Vincent just does enough damage. Sure, we could still work on Marion's artifacts, but at that point, we're working on Marion's artifacts almost exclusively for defense. Which is why why it's such a hard decision. And crit damage, that's what we need to see. So, the one good thing is if I do stick with Marion and we do go with Marion all the way, I probably will be the only support that clears it. Or at least the first person that uses a support to clear it. Which is sort of why, and that's not really a great reason, but that's sort of why I'm considering sticking with it. Like I said, it's not the greatest reason, that's for sure. But it is a reason. I don't know how I feel about using that as the reason, but I think I'm okay with it at this point in defense penetration. Regardless, though, how are you doing today? I do hope everything is going well for you. Obviously, there's just a lot of math involved. And what actually happened is somebody had mentioned in the comments, you're going to take even longer doing that. And the reality is, they're right. If I go to 3,500 on Marion and 4,000 on Vincent, that is 14,000 levels. If I go to 5,000 on Marion and 2,000 on Sophia, that's 12,000 levels. So I'm saving 2,000 levels. Granted, 2,000 levels that I'm using are worthless. Because I'm putting them in the book. So there's a little bit of that too. And dodge. So there's a little bit of, oh, those levels are worthless because you're just going to build a book, and once you complete Total War, the book is worthless. Like, why are you doing that? But again, if I build Marion's artifacts up to even 3,500, eventually Vincent, and then I switch to focus on Vincent, guess what? Eventually Vincent's damage will eclipse Marion so hard that it won't even matter that he has artifacts. That's the reality. You'll never have, if you play this game on a long enough time horizon, you'll never have two heroes, and I just hosed myself today. It's fine, I can fix it tomorrow. It's just I over upgraded the orb because I was talking. And 116,976. So close to 117 million. And 282,845 crit damage. So if you're wondering why I'm hemming and hawing, is because if I take Marion to 3,500, should have more than enough defense. We won't have to make an artifact, and then we can effectively start on Vincent's artifacts early. If I do go ahead and do it the other way, like get Marion all the way up, I probably get the title of the first support. I create a book that's effectively, it's not trash, but it's 2,000 levels of uselessness. However, that does mean I can definitively start Vincent with 2 rank 2s. 2 rare rank 2 artifacts. So I am leaning towards Marion because I'm already in this deep. Honestly, if you are any other kind of support main and you're probably less than 2,000 in your artifacts, unless you want the title of doing it with support, go ahead and switch to warrior. Go ahead and switch. The only reason you would not switch is if your artifacts were defense. If your artifacts are not defense, just go ahead and start making an artifact for Vincent. Start working it up. And just work on that again, and make sure you have crit damage and attack. That's just the reality. If I would have done that when I was looking at Christian versus Marion and just said, oh, let's just make a warrior, even with my crummy crit damage artifacts, I still would be light years ahead. It is what it is. Hindsight's 2020. I was really annoyed with the Artifact Awakening system. And it's just, honestly, to me, that was my number one thing, is that just wasn't fun. Awakening artifacts like that just wasn't any fun. But, that said, once again, we're going to level up the castle. I almost forgot. And yeah, I guess it was kind of a rant. But you know what they say, don't be like your parents. Alright, let's see. 21.253 million. No. 21.261 million. So close, 21.263. So, that said, once again, as always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the channel, and if you have any questions, feel free to say something in the comments. I do always look forward to your questions, And as always, thank you again, and I hope you have a great day.